Did you know a single night can change everything? Well, in just 100 years ago, it changed an entire city forever. September 8, 1900, a sunny day in Galveston, Texas. Families strolled along the beach, children played, everyone thought it would be a nice evening. They had no idea that within hours a monstrous hurricane would wipe out their entire city. It became the deadliest natural disaster in American history. So why didn't they see it coming? Let's go back to the start. By the end of the 19th century, Galveston Island was a bustling port city with around 37,000 people. Its deep water harbor and rail links made it one of the busiest ports in the United States. There were cotton warehouses, slaughterhouses, and lots of industry. The main industries included importing and exporting grains, cotton, and animals that made it very rich. It was known as the Jewel of Texas, a shining example of American progress. Then, on September 6th, a tropical storm was brewing off the coast of Africa. No one noticed it at first. For 2 days it stayed out of sight, building power over the warm Gulf of Mexico. By September 8th, it was ready to strike, but for now, no one knew. On the morning of September 8th, it seemed like any other day. Seagulls squawked overhead. People went about their daily lives. By early afternoon, though, the wind started to pick up. People began to notice. The wind grew stronger and stronger as the day wore on. By late afternoon, it was roaring at 140 miles per hour. That's 225 kilometers per hour. The wind smashed giant waves against the city. Wooden houses shattered like toys. People desperately ran for cover. They were too late. Giant waves crashed through the streets, sweeping away everything in their path. Inundations spread through the city. Homes were completely destroyed, tossed about like matchsticks. Walls collapsed, roofs flew off, trees snapped and fell, crushing anyone underneath them. People ran to higher ground, but there wasn't much higher ground. Galveston is only 8 feet above sea level. Much of the city was built on the beach. Most of the buildings were wooden and flimsy. After all, Galveston was a tourist town. No one thought that a storm could ever destroy it. Oh, how wrong they were. Giant waves rolled across the island. The biggest wave was 15 feet high, 4.6 meters. The storm surge pushed seawater on top of the high tide. Water covered the entire island. Most people had never seen anything like this before. People fled to rooftops, hoping that would save them. Many families huddled together on rooftops, waiting for the nightmare to end. But the storm surge kept rising. Wave after wave crashed over the island, again and again. Families were swept away. Houses slid into the sea. Debris flew through the air. People were flung about like rag dolls. Some floated out to sea. Others disappeared beneath piles of wood and brick. This continued throughout the night. In the morning, the sun rose over a graveyard. When the storm finally passed, survivors emerged from hiding. They found a wasteland. The Jewel of Texas was gone. Their once great city was reduced to a pile of rubble. Waves had crashed through the streets, smashing everything in sight. Dead fish lay rotting on the sand. The smell hung heavy in the air. Many people were injured, trapped under broken planks and bricks. Others were missing, vanished in the raging waters. Most had no idea where their loved ones were. It looked like an apocalyptic movie, only this was real life. People wandered among the ruins, stunned and confused. A few weeks later, a reporter described what he saw. He said it looked like a giant had scooped up the sand and dropped it down, leveled everything. Every building was wrecked, every tree uprooted. It was hard to find a single undamaged object. They had lost their entire world overnight. They needed help, but there was no one to call. The telephone lines were cut. The telegraph lines were down. No one knew the full extent of the damage until days later. When news finally reached the outside world, relief came pouring in. But for many, it was too late. They had lost everything. After the storm, they found thousands of bodies strewn across the island. Some were mangled and unrecognizable. Others were still clutching pieces of debris. One woman told the story of that day. She said she was in her home when the wind began to howl. Suddenly, the walls collapsed. She grabbed her child and ran outside. She found her husband floating past in the floodwater. His house had collapsed, too. Together, they clung to each other for dear life. Finally, they saw a small patch of dry land. Weakly, they pulled themselves toward it. Eventually, they were rescued by a passing ship. Another man told of his experience that day. He had been fishing off the coast when the storm hit. He struggled to get his boat back to shore, but the wind was too strong. Finally, he hid under a bridge, holding on tight, but the water rose, and eventually the bridge was underwater. He floated for hours, watching the destruction around him. Finally, he was found and taken off to a hospital. Many people suffered like this, not knowing if their loved ones were alive or dead. One woman searched frantically for her son. She asked everyone she met, but no one had seen him. 3 days after the hurricane, she saw a group of men burying bodies in a mass grave. She began to scream. She saw her son's body being carried toward the grave. She rushed forward and begged the men to let her take his body away. They told her it was too late. She threw herself on the grave, sobbing uncontrollably. She couldn't bear to lose another part of her family. For many people, losing their home was the least of their worries. They had lost their entire world. All around them, people were dying. One survivor recalled the horror of that night. She said the sea came and took everything, everything. So why did so many people die? Why didn't they see it coming? At that time, there was no proper warning system in place. Most forecasts came from newspapers and local weather observers. The U.S. Weather Bureau did predict a tropical storm, but they said it would weaken before hitting land. They estimated it would reach Galveston on September 9th, giving people an hour or so to prepare. They also predicted that it would only be a tropical storm, not a devastating hurricane. This gave people a false sense of security. They thought they had plenty of time, but really they had almost no time at all. When the hurricane struck, it was too late. They tried their best to fight back, but it was hopeless. People raced to higher ground, but everywhere was flooded. They ran to sturdy buildings, but those were overwhelmed. Many people fled to the train station. They thought trains couldn't be washed away. They were wrong. Even the train station was destroyed. Some people sought shelter under bridges, but those collapsed, too. Within hours, the ocean had swallowed the city. People were trapped, drowned, or swept out to sea. It was a night of total devastation. When morning finally arrived, it revealed a scene of total horror. What happened next? How did Galveston rebuild itself? The people of Galveston refused to give up. They began clearing debris from the streets, trying to restore order. Doctors set up emergency clinics. People cared for each other, sharing food and comforting the bereaved. Other cities sent supplies and rescuers. Slowly but surely, Galveston began to rebuild itself. The Galveston Hurricane remains the deadliest natural disaster in U.S. history. It taught America a valuable lesson. They needed better ways of predicting hurricanes and issuing warnings. To prevent a similar disaster, they improved seawalls to protect the city from future storms. The U.S. government established the National Hurricane Center to track storms as they develop. Meteorologists learned to forecast hurricanes more accurately, allowing people to prepare in advance. But these improvements came too late for Galveston. The city never fully recovered its former glory. So what can we learn from the Galveston hurricane? What makes some disasters worse than others? Some disasters are inevitable. People often live in areas that are prone to earthquakes, volcanoes, or hurricanes. You can't prevent them, but you can prepare. The Galveston hurricane caught people off guard. No one realized the full scale of the disaster until it was too late. If they had prepared better, many people might have survived. Galveston is a warning for us all. When nature's forces are unleashed, even the strongest cities can fall. So do you think you'd survive a major disaster? Let me know in the comments. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps me make more videos like this. Thanks for watching. See you next time.